money is economic energy. The problem is inflation. Because in the history of the world, we have inflation. When the Romans created gold coins, they start with a certain amount of gold, and they would debase the currency, right?
Yes.
They would cut the amount of gold or cut the amount of silver in the coin. And when they cut it to a small enough level, no one would take the coin anymore. So the mercenaries don't want the coin. The emperor can't pay the mercenaries. The empire topples. If I just issue you paper, you know, whatever the paper might be, and then I triple the supply of the paper, eventually the currency collapses. So the problem with currencies in the history of time is the trust in the issuer. What is inflation? It's not really well understood. Some people think it's CPI. CPI is the rate at which a market basket of consumer goods is going up, but the government gets to pick the basket.
I've noticed.
Okay, if I pick things like Domino's Pizza and streaming YouTube videos, they will never go up in price. I can actually adjust the basket, so I just pick things that don't go up in price. Or middle class, working class, you're working for cash, and whatever cash you've got, right, is either sitting in the bank or you don't have a lot of net cash. So the real significance here is, if the dollar loses 20% of its purchasing power each year, then the value of your salary is deteriorating by 20% a year. It's not falling at the rate of CPI inflation. It's falling at the rate of monetary inflation. The road to serfdom is working exponentially harder for currency growing exponentially weaker. Okay? That's the problem. You're a dentist. You're generating 5% more a year for a decade. I'm inflating the money supply at 20% a year for a decade. If you save every penny in 10 years, you'll be able to buy 1/4 of what you could have bought today, because the price of housing is going up at 20% a year, and you're just not ever going to catch up. The currency is to the economy what your blood is to your body. And economic energy, or money, is to the currency what oxygen is to your blood. So common sense says, if I keep sucking the oxygen out of the room, if I suck the oxygen out of the room, you're going to either suffocate or freeze to death. And if I keep sucking the economic energy out of the currency, the economy collapses. In the extreme, you get ripped back to Stone Age barter. Right? When the money doesn't work anymore, I have to trade you cigarettes for bullets. Right. And the problem with that is the economy becomes 1,000,000 times less efficient, right? If you don't have money, now, how many countries in the world have a collapsed currency? 66 are dollarized. There's 180 about countries. There's 130 floating currencies. All of them are weaker than the dollar. The U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency. The U.S. dollar is expanding. It was expanding 10% a year for a decade, now expanding at 14% a year. It expanded 34% over the past 12 months. The dollar is weakening. Okay? It's like the oxygen is getting sucked out of the room. So, Tucker, if I told you the oxygen is getting sucked out of the room and there's an oxygen mask drops out of the ceiling over there, what would you do?
Run for it. Yeah.
Put the oxygen mask on. Bitcoin is the oxygen mask. With every other asset on earth, anything else you can own, houses, gold, silver, commodities, stocks, bonds, when the price goes up, the supply increases. If I increase the price of any stock by a factor of 10, the company issues more stock.
Of course.
If I buy all the bonds, all the municipal bonds, the price of bonds go up, people issue more bonds. Right? If I drive up the price of gold by a factor of 10, people print more gold or mine more gold. Bitcoin's the only thing in the world that's inelastic to price. If the price of Bitcoin triples, you can't make any more. If the price goes up by a factor of 1,000,000, you can't make any more. Nothing in this world that you can own that I can't take with force, except Bitcoin. Okay? If you take the $1 million and you buy Bitcoin, and you take personal custody of it, and you own the keys password is in your head. I hold a gun to your head, give me your Bitcoin, you can say no. Now, I can still shoot you in the head, but I don't get the property. You see, you can take it. This is the only property in the history of mankind, Tucker, you can take to the grave. The pharaohs wanted to take their gold with them to the grave. They created these pyramids to bury themselves with gold, but grave diggers and grave robbers steal the gold. You can't take anything else with you, but you can take the password in your head. Why is that significant? Well, you study the history of the Jews in the 30s in Nazi Germany, and most of them left with, if they were lucky, 10% of their assets. They would have left with all their assets if their assets were in Bitcoin. They couldn't move their house. They can't move a building. You can't haul the gold. Maybe you try to smuggle diamonds. Not very good store of value.